But yeah, no. So the NBA draft is kicking off next week. And look, we already know who's probably going number one. The Detroit Pistons are picking number one. It's going to be Cade Cunningham. It should be
He only,
Cade
he
Cunningham.
only interviewed with that one team, so we
Yeah,
already know.
it's already that's already set and match. There's a bit of controversy, I want to say, about who's going to go number two. There,
Yes.
like it's almost split as far as Jalen Green and Evan Mobley. And look, Jalen Green, we see he went the G League route. The dude did great. I think he progressed, and he kind of showed that the G League is a viable route for players to come out of high school too. But Evan Mobley, superstar center. He has that superstar potential, much like DeAndre Ayton would. So he's kind of like also on that. I think people kind of see him as a bit of an upgrade too because he does play the center position. That's kind of valued a lot in the draft, especially early on. So, who do you think is going to end up going number two in this draft, and who should go number two? And you can give different answers for those two questions.
Right. So I think Mobley should go number two. Who has the second pick? It's Oklahoma City, right?
Yep. No,
No,
Houston
Houston.
Rockets have the number two pick.
So Houston could go the Jalen Green route, but the thing is, Houston has such a plethora of guards right now. Like they traded for that kid that the Cavs used to have. You know what I'm
Porter.
talking about? The lefty, Porter. They traded
Yeah.
for Kevin Porter, so they kind of got him. They have Jay Sean Tate. They have they have a lot of guards on that team. They don't really have a big man. Like, yeah, they bought in Christian Wood, right? Like they bought in Christian Wood, but Christian Wood, he's not a traditional big. And if there's anything that these NBA playoffs just taught you is that even though big men, like the traditional big men, might be obsolete, like the back of the basket big men, you need those super athletic rim protectors who can get it done. And much like DeAndre Ayton, as you saw with Phoenix, and much like, I mean, I'm not going to say Mobley is Giannis, but he can be that rim protector, the rim runner, the athletic guy that a championship caliber team like Phoenix has. He could be that Houston needs, and he would fill a big hole because they did trade Capella a couple of years ago to try to go all in on small ball. So that's who I think should go number two. Who do I think will go number two? I mean, if Houston's smart, they'll go with Mobley, but I just think that a lot of the hype around Jalen Green right now is really pointing that Jalen Green's not going to go past two. So that's a lot of hype.
It is hype, but it's also like, and I don't know, maybe the Rockets are putting it out there to kind of distract people and maybe throw them off. I don't know why, because no one's going to trade up to number one to pick Jalen Green. But
Cleveland is interested. I heard Cleveland's interested.
well, we're just interested in any good player. Look, we have the number 3 pick through the Cavs, and we're probably gonna end up picking like fucking like I don't know, like Moses Moody, like or Kuminga or something, because we just can't draft right. We never draft right. But even when it's right there in front of us. But no, for the Rockets, I think they're linked to Jalen Green. They apparently like Jalen Green and they think he's more pro ready. That kind of plays into it, I think, a little bit more. So that being said, that would put the Cavs getting Evan Mobley, hopefully. Hopefully the Cavs would pick Evan Mobley. God knows what's going through Dan Gilbert's mind right now, but they'd be dumb not to pick to pick Evan Mobley. Honestly, he is best center in this draft. He's a dominant player. You know, his upside is just so great. Like he would fit a lot of holes. The Cavs already have a lot of guards on their team. Like we have Darius Garland, we have Colin Sexton, who's just automatic scoring, but we don't have a dominant big man that could help us, I think, grow down the line. I'm still holding out hope, even though I don't think it's going to happen at this point, that we are smart and we trade back up into the first round somehow and end up picking my boy Josh Giddey. I think he would be an upgrade over time over Darius Garland. And I think that he's a much better ball handler. He's much better at getting his teammates involved. He played in the NBL. He played against professional basketball players, whether they're in Australia or not. They're professional basketball players. He played against professional defenses. He has the ability to shoot. I think Josh Giddey, Colin Sexton, and Evan Mobley over the next 3-4 years would be a very formidable trio in the East. That being said, that's probably not going to happen. That's wishful thinking on my part. But Evan Mobley is obviously I think the pick for the Cavs there.
If Mobley falls to 3, then yes.
That's if he falls to 3, and if he doesn't, if the Rockets end up doing the smart thing and pick Mobley, I
And
think
you got
that's when you got a
Josh
decision between Jalen Green
and
and
Jalen
Jalen
Suggs.
Suggs, though. That's the thing, because I know the Cavs are actually. I think the Cavs are actually kind of big on Jalen Suggs and what he can do as far as where they are, where they are as far as if Mobley doesn't fall to them. Like that's what I'm hearing. So
I personally think Suggs would be better off in Toronto. I think with Toronto's like with just the kind of player that Suggs is. I watched pretty much every game he played at Gonzaga. I'm a huge Suggs fan. I've been a huge Suggs fan just with the athleticism, his drive, his motor, and everything like that. If they're going to transition from Kyle Lowry, who's been the face of that organization for the last decade, the perfect guy to do it would be a player like Jalen Suggs. You know, he's kind of got that dog in him the same way Lowry does. He's got that chip on his shoulder. He's a little bit bigger. He's more athletic, but he can play physical the same way Lowry can. He can get up in defenders. He's not the best shooter, but, you know, he's only 19 years old. He'll be 20. So by the time his career starts in Toronto, as only we've seen with Toronto, they are very good at developing players. I think the perfect place for Suggs would be Toronto. That's what I think, though. That's what I think should happen. Then after that, you know, those are like the consensus top four. You know, you can kind of like one is pretty much set in stone. Two and three are kind of like, you know, interchangeable. And then four, you know, Suggs is kind of locked in at four, but that depends on what happens at 2 and 3. So
can I ask you a question? Who is going to be okay? I want to ask this the right way. Is there a player in this draft who's not going to be drafted in the top 5 who you think is underrated and is going to end up being a great player, like, 4 or 5 years down the line? Like, who do you see as potentially being that player? Like, for me, I'll just give you my answer. And then there's a few of them. I mean, James Bouknight is good. Frank Wagner Jr. is like a really good, solid player. But for me, that player, I've said it before, I will say it again, Josh Giddey is the most underrated player in this draft, period. This dude is, I think he's like Lonzo Ball, but he has, I think, more of an ability to get better at shooting. And if he figures that out, it's like he is the total package. He's got the best ball vision in anyone in this draft. Right now, he's slated to go like somewhere around 12 to San Antonio or 13 to like I think the Pacers or something. So he's kind of slated to go right there. But I think this guy he gets rebounds. He averaged I think it was like 8 rebounds a game. He's a point guard. He's got great ball vision. This dude he has the potential to be a superstar. And I think one of the reasons he's really getting, overlooked is because he plays in Australia. And, they don't have a lot of I guess, confidence. We've seen, foreign players kind of sometimes not perform to the extent that people expect. Andrea Bargnani is always the big one that comes to mind. Darko Milicic, those guys. But we were also seeing a string of foreign players very recently, especially doing pretty well. Luka Doncic, although Luka is a different type of player. He's a different kind of cat. But I do think the NBA should be more open-minded to someone who obviously has the ability that Josh Giddey has. I think he's got the biggest potential to be a superstar of anyone who's not in that consensus top 3 or 4.
So you said star potential?
Yeah, well, who's gonna be who is going to be that player who 4 years from now, we're gonna look at, oh damn, they passed on him.
Like we slept
Yeah.
on him.
Yeah, who's gonna be I mentioned Frank Wagner, Josh Giddey, Jared Butler is there. There's like Keon Johnson, there's Mitchell, Trey Murphy. There's a few of these players who I think are gonna be good. I think Trey Mann, who I think they have going to the Knicks, that dude is Trey Mann. If you guys pick Trey Mann, that could be big for him. He's that guard out of Florida. He's tough. He's tough. But there's he could provide some scoring. I think for you could be a potential elite scorer, kind of like a Colin Sexton was. So there's a few picks out there. Kai Jones from Texas.
Star potential.
I mean, not even star potential, but who do you think is gonna surprise some people? Underrated. It can even be someone maybe even Jalen Suggs, not being a top 3 player. Not our pick.
I wouldn't be surprised if Suggs comes out and he is dominant. Not dominant, but he's, good. A player that I could see coming out early on and surprising people. Okay. I think the kid out of Illinois, Io Dusumu, could when he comes in because he's big, he's physical, his game, he kind of has that, like, he has a very high motor, he's a very good on-ball defender, and the scoring, that's just gonna the scoring, obviously, that comes, the when you're a young player, defense is what gets you on the court, especially when you're like a player. I think he's projected to be a second rounder, so I think a player that's going to surprise a lot of people is going to be Io Desumu. Early
Mm.
on. A player who I think actually has a higher ceiling than people think might be Keon Johnson, just because of the athleticism that he's got. I think Keon Johnson, you look 5 years down the road and you'll sit there and be like, how did this guy slide to 8 or 9? So
Yeah,
that's where I see. Those are the two
yeah.
that I see.
I mean, and for me, it's someone like Trey Mann. I think Trey Mann, if he goes to the Knicks, dude, under Tibbs, like the development there is going to be great. Like, and he look, one area I will say that you guys struggled with, like, is like getting that automatic scoring, like that ability to, like, you just get someone who can score points. Like, not even off the ball, but, like, at will. So I think Trey Mann could have the potential of doing that and helping you guys with some scoring for the Knicks. But who are you kind of targeting, I guess, for the Knicks in this draft? Because, like, this is one of the first times, dude. This is one of the first times that the Knicks have not picked, like, top 3, top 5 in your entire lifetime. It's a rarity. So they got 2 picks, like, almost back to back. I think you guys got, like, what, 19 and 21 or something like that. Like it's only like a 1 pick difference. But who are some of the people you have your eyes on, later in the draft, or maybe even trading up a little bit to getting someone maybe at like 15 or whatever?
So in the first round, I think we're gonna look more towards guards. I would really like us if he falls that far. We need a playmaking guard, and a playmaking guard that I've been keeping my eye on has been Sharif Cooper. I think Sharif Cooper, he has, as a playmaker, if you haven't seen this, go watch this kid. His playmaking ability is insane. Like, it's so good. He might be a little undersized, but he's a really good playmaker, which is something New York needs. He could be a very good backup off the bench. Another one that I was thinking about that we actually, New York, they literally interviewed him yesterday, or they loved how his showing was this kid out of Houston, third-year player, Quentin Grimes. One of the smoothest jumpers you'll ever see. Went to Houston. You watch him. He's big. Like, his body's all filled out. He's a physical kid. He can play on-ball defense. He doesn't have the biggest wingspan, but he has he has a very pure jump shot, very nice looking jump shot, nice looking stroke. He's about 6'5". So I think you get him in Tibbs' system. Tibbs will get him, Tibbs will make him a better defender because Tibbs can make anybody, like, Tibbs can make an average defender a good defender. I think he could take this kid and make this kid into a pretty good on ball, pretty good defender in Tibbs' system, and the kind of shooter this kid already is, dude. A kid like Quentin Grimes is somebody that I think New York could steal. Another one is Miles McBride, just because Miles McBride, he played at West Virginia.
Very underrated in this draft.
Press Virginia. He's the kind of guy, he can play at 1,000,000 miles an hour. He's that kind of guy where he will pressure 94 feet, which is Tibbs loves that. You get a guard that'll pressure you 94 feet. Pretty athletic guy. He'll do everything that New York asks him. I think they can get him. And then another player that's kind of flying under the radar, because he did a couple years of college, but this guy was a McDonald's All-American in high school, was Charles Bassey. Bassey out of Western Kentucky. He was a very good rebounder. I think it's going to take him maybe a little while to kind of like get used to the NBA physicality. But I think once he does, he's already a big physical guy. Get him with the NBA weight training, get him on an NBA weight training regimen, the kind of rebounder that he is, he's a very good second unit player. See, for my Knicks, we don't really need a starter. Like, we have Mitchell Robinson. We've already got the RJ Barrett. We've got our guys for the future. Now we're just trying to get role players. Like, we could even sign a starter, like a good starter. We don't need to draft a starter. Now
I would argue the only like if you guys were to, like, draft someone, like, you guys just need some scoring, I think, off the bench. Like that's filling out your depth. Like, because, like, no offense, that is one area that you guys did struggle with and show in the playoffs. Like just being able to keep up with other teams, because what you guys have built there with RJ Barrett, with like the guys you have there now, and Tibbs especially, you've built something that I think can last, because it's reliant on fundamentals and defensive basketball. But if you get that offensive punch to go along with it, it's going to send you guys, I think, over the top, and you could win not 1 but 2 playoff series. Be a contender. And I think that's like where the mindset of the developing these players should be, or analyzing these players should be for the Knicks. It's going to, like, who's going to provide us that offensive kind of punch, whether it's off the bench or off the ball, what have you. I think that's kind of like, at least with that first pick, kind of be like keeping in mind.
Which is why I think, I think a guy like some of these more NBA ready players, like they might not have the higher ceiling, but a guy like a Quentin Grimes, if a guy like Corey Kispert falls to us at 19, you can't pass on that. That's a 6'7". That's a two-way, one of the best shooters, the best pure shooters in the entire draft. That he's already a pretty good on-ball defender. He might lack a little bit of athleticism, but he makes up for it with his size and physicality at 6'7". And, you got a guy like that in Tibbs' system. I just don't think Kispert's going to fall that low. I don't see Kispert falling anywhere. I don't see Kispert. I've seen people have him projected as a lottery pick. I don't see him falling to New York. That's all I'm saying.
Really? You don't see him falling to New York?
I don't. I just see one of these other teams that, they could stand to add another shooter. Like, I don't know who's ahead of us, but one of these other teams that could stand to add another shooter just as like a role player. I could see one of those teams going and scooping him up. Like, maybe if Golden State trades out of that 7 slot and they get, like the 15th or 16th pick, he is a Golden State Warrior type player. 3-and-D, fits what they try to do. He could fit in their system and everything like that. I'm not going to say he is Klay Thompson, but when you watch him play, his game reminds you of Klay Thompson. He's just not as talented as Klay Thompson, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. So I guess going off of that, who do you kind of see as maybe a bit overrated in this draft and a player who might end up even being a bust considering where they were drafted? And I'll go to myself again immediately because I'm a narcissistic maniac. For me, it's going to come back to Jonathan Kuminga. I think. And it's not that I don't have the faith in Jonathan Kuminga. I think he's a workhorse. I think he's got the motor. Like he reminds me in a lot of ways of Michael Kidd-Gilchrist when he came out. That's like for me. And dude, I mean, like you can.
That's fucked up because he went to the same high school as Gilchrist too. That's fucked up.
I'm hip, but like, dude. Like, think about it. A black hole offensively, but a great defender, high motor. That's exactly what Kuminga is. And that's pretty much what Gilchrist was. And that's not saying he can't be a contributor. But he struggles with jump shots. He struggles with shooting the ball. He was like what? 20. It was like 23, 24% from 3-point range. Like the dude just he didn't light up the offensive scoreboard in the G League. So that's the thing. But he was a great defender. That being said, I just don't think. I think not wasting, but spending a pick on Jonathan Kuminga at like top 5. It's not like it's not worth it in today's league. It's just true. Unless you're a team like unless you're a team that's already has everything else. Like if you're a team like the Heat, if you're a team like I guess the Lakers or even the Clippers. If you're one of these teams or the Suns, like if you're a team that's like already picking like it's already in the playoffs and you need some like perimeter defense, you need some good defense, like pick Kuminga, but he's not gonna fall to you guys. He's gonna go like some trash team that probably doesn't need him as an immediate need. I think.
Or he'll go to the fucking Orlando Magic or some shit like that.
I think he's slated to go. I think to like OKC. I think that's where he's slated to go, and I think that would not be great for OKC. But that's just. And again, it's perspective of where he's gonna go, like where he's gonna be drafted. It's like not gonna be a team that's gonna be the best fit for him, and that's why I think he end up might being a bust. And like the other ones that I think people are talking about are like people like Davion Mitchell, people like Keon Johnson. Actually, I think someone was like I forgot who it was. Someone on ESPN was talking about how he has some bust potential. Even though he's like a great player or whatever, but like they think like maybe he's like 3-point shooting might not be as apt to today's game.
See, someone like I think of like when I think of a bust, like you brought up Davion Mitchell, and the reason why it depends on where Davion Mitchell gets drafted because that is a 4. It says 3. He was a redshirt, so he actually did 4 years of college. A guy like that, I don't know whether you can actually put as much pressure on them because if they do get drafted that high and they don't live up, it's like, well, a 4-year player, when do 4-year players really ever live up to that kind of hype anyway? So the Davion Mitchell one, that's kind of tricky. One that I could kind of see is the Scotty Barnes, just because his game is based solely off of athleticism. His game is based solely off of athleticism, which we've seen, it takes some of those guys like a little minute to kind of get that jump shot together. And some of them don't even get get it. Some of them don't even get it together. And like once again, depending on the organization that he goes to, if he goes to an organization that's good with developing young players that has shown they can develop players, that's fine. If he goes to Orlando or if he goes to that dumpster fire in Chicago, then that could be, detrimental to his career. His career's over before it even starts.
Thanks for watching this video from Real Take Sports Talk. Remember to like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you get notified whenever a new video is released. Also, remember to check out our live show every single Thursday at 8 p.m. right here on the YouTube channel. And remember, keep it real.